Deputy Dessie Ellis. You have 5 minutes.
Around Mahaga Carlock. Just a week ago, the Constitutional Convention voted overwhelmingly to enshrine the right to housing in Bunrock na HÉireann. This has long been Sinn Féin's position, and we welcome it wholeheartedly and call on the Government to move forward with this. Labour and Fine Gael are failing to protect and uphold the right to housing. We have almost 90,000 people, 90,000 on the waiting lists across the country. That's almost 200,000 men, women and children in desperate need of housing, secure accommodation, and we've also 5,000 people homeless. Yet, 29 homes were built for social housing in Dublin last year. 16 families go newly homeless in Dublin every week. Yet the government claim they will end homelessness by 2016. You are either naive, beyond belief, or you are lying. NAMA Housing proposes a solution to housing shortages, has delivered under 500 homes out of a promised 4,000. Despite what some might say, it gives me no great pleasure to say these things. I would be very happy if I was not receiving calls every day from new people at risk of losing their rented home, languishing on huge waiting lists, or living in crumbling housing in desperate need of refurbishment, or local authority homes lying idle with no money for repairs. But this is unfortunately the case. The Minister stood here this morning and quoted figures of great boosts in spending. But we have heard such figures before, and they never seem to materialise. We do know for certain that the housing budget has been cut by over €1 billion since 2008. And in 2013, the government, in its wisdom, decided to cut a further €58 million from the housing in 2014. The effects of these cuts are much more tangible than the promises of the Minister. This morning I am dealing with the case of a woman who has had her rent raised by nearly a third, way above rent supplement limits. She lost that home, and now she's living in Cavan, but unable to afford that rent, while she waits 10th in line to be housed in the Finglas area. She cannot get rent supplement in Cavan, or she will lose her place and be stranded away from her family. Recently I dealt with a family who for 4 months have been lying in a hotel, having been made homeless. They've been given a very short notice, a request to leave the hotel that day, as they lug their possessions and their 2 children around the town, seeking a place to stay and awaiting a call from the homeless section. I called everyone I could see or I could think of so that they could get a roof over their head that night. This is the story of your government's housing policy and its abject failure to address the housing crisis. No plan has been put in place with local authorities to significantly boost social housing numbers. In fact, you are now talking about removing any responsibility from developers to provide social housing, quoting imaginary job figures you have produced in the style of an Anglo banker. We need to build more social housing through the use of funds from the EIB, which we suggested numerous times. I'm told now we are starting to do this. After 3 years in government, it is only being applied for. We need to use social housing bonds and local authority trusts to allow councils to raise funds to build more stock as and when it is needed. The government has no problem with this policy. You are just saying you will do nothing about it despite a commitment in the programme for government. We need to allow councils to purchase houses on unfinished estates in the case where this would release the bond, allowing the estate to be completed and providing much needed social and affordable housing. Labour have made much of their success of stopping the trend of homeless cuts by this government. But homeless funding is only part of the picture, as they themselves recognised in the programme, stating that prevention is better than cure. Labour has directly contributed to homelessness. You cut rent supplement, added extra money to rent supplement contributions, the dole of younger people, child benefit payments to single mothers and other supports. Labour has failed to protect RAS tenants who are being evicted by greedy landlords watching rents soar for just 50 or 100 euros. These are the causes of homelessness. Water charges will also make keeping your home harder. Tackling these causes would help prevent homelessness. Sinn Féin agrees with the policies of housing-led and housing-first approaches, but they can only really work when the state is willing to provide adequate housing and is still not relying on the private market to provide. The stagnation in development of residential properties is in part because the current rental market is so incredibly profitable. It is also under-regulated, as we still have no deposit retention scheme, and the PRTB has been given more work for less pay, which of course seems to be the new Labour motto. There is still time for this government to make a real difference, but it would require an about turn. Minister, we are in an emergency crisis. We need action. We need radical action, not massaging figures. Focus, Threshold and other groups are telling us that this is a human disaster of the making, and it's on our doorstep.
Thank you very much, Deputy.